This is the latest installment to URI's Pre-Health Experience video series. This episode focuses on community service, how to get involved, what you can learn, how you can make a meaningful contribution to your community. Our guests are Ashlyn Macareg, a junior CMB major, Andrea Miranda Duarte, a junior, but majoring in biology, or is it biology or biological sciences?
Biological sciences.
Okay, great, because there is a difference. And minoring in Latin American and Caribbean studies. And Amy Albert, who's the Community Engagement Coordinator in the Center for Careers and Experiential Education at URI. So I'm going to start with Andrea. Could you tell us a little bit about the activities you've been involved in the community?
Yeah, so two of my most meaningful experiences were working with Progreso Latino and Planned Parenthood as a Generation Action intern. So with Progreso Latino, I was a census promoter with them during the 2020 census, and I basically translated and provided some more information about the census to kind of dispel misinformation. And then because it was also the pandemic and we all had to be careful, they instructed us on how to spread like COVID safety information as well. Mm-hmm. And for the Planned Parenthood experience, I basically developed like a safe space for queer Latinx youth to just talk about issues that we don't normally talk about. And yeah.
Fabulous. Ashlyn, what kinds of things have you been involved in?
The two big things that I'm currently involved in are the SAVES, which stands for Students Actively Volunteering and Engaging in Community Service, or the service, but community service. And I am currently the vice president of that club. So we have Amy as our faculty advisor, actually. And so she coordinates and just lets us know of events coming around. And then people reach out to us to help out with the local community, anywhere from food pantry work or going to the beaches and helping clean up the beaches. We kind of are open to any ideas and any suggestions of our members. And then I'm also the build coordinator for Habitat for Humanity, which gives education on affordable housing. We advocate for affordable housing, and we actually get to go and like work on the house, which is really cool. So those are the two things that I am very heavily involved in.
Great. Now, Amy, tell us a little bit about just what your position at URI entails and, the different ways that you work with students.
Yeah, so I'm the community engagement coordinator in the Center for Career and Experiential Education, and I do a few different things with students. And I advise student service organizations on campus and help support them, like Ashlyn was talking about, in terms of connecting with the community. I run volunteer programs, regular one-time volunteer programs on and off campus, as well as help to create some of those sustainable partnerships with our community organizations in South County, but also kind of across Rhode Island, as we are a small state that takes advantage of our entire larger scale community. And then I also work with faculty members to think about integrating service learning in their classroom and doing some project-based work with our community partners. Maybe we have a community partner that really needs help and support with dispelling misinformation about a global pandemic. How can we help to create marketing materials for them? A great way to do that is through coursework. And so that's kind of the different ways I engage. I also oversee the URI Service Corps Alternative Break Program and run immersive service programs over spring break. And then we also do weekend trips as well.
Great. So back to Ashlyn, you mentioned a bunch of things that you've been involved with. Do you think you can pick one that's been most meaningful for you and why that might be?
Yeah, so I think the most meaningful one for me is Habitat for Humanity, just because we get to work with the homeowner, which I think is a very cool experience, is to get to be a part of the process of building a house and seeing that work get done every single week, and then getting to meet the homeowner. And at the end of the build of like a restore, we get to have a house celebration, which is also really cool and just very, very touching. And additionally, since I'm the build coordinator, I get to work with like the local South County, so I get to sort of see both sides of the coin.
But what are some of the skills you think you've developed through your community service, and particularly thinking about it in terms of being in the health professions?
Yeah, so I've always been very, very passionate about helping people, which I think kind of ties volunteering and healthcare very well together. I've always been involved in service throughout my whole life, and that's sort of something that's pushed me towards healthcare is because every day you're helping someone else and helping someone new with whatever challenges they're going through. And then the other thing is that when you're building a house, you have to work together as a team. Like I put up insulation, I'm not holding that by myself. And when you're in healthcare, you're not solving a whole problem by yourself either. So
Right.
I've learned those skills.
No, that's great. That's great. And Andrea, you mentioned several things that were meaningful to you. What would you say has been the most meaningful?
It's really hard to choose. But my favorite thing about both of the experiences is that I've been able to use my identity as a bicultural person to try to like bring those two cultures together, and help get more like unbiased information out there and to help people feel more comfortable with things that are going on in the world. So that's why both of the experiences are very meaningful to me. During both of these experiences, I kind of saw myself develop as a leader. Before the Progreso Latino experience, I was very shy, and this was an opportunity that forced me to get out there and talk to people, complete strangers in two different languages. And during the Planned Parenthood experience, I basically led a group and in talking about these like really tough topics sometimes that revolve around sexual health. And it really pushed me to be able to like feel confident and be able to see myself as a leader, but also to understand teamwork, as Aisling was saying. Like you really have to be able to work in teams in order to work in healthcare. So those experiences really helped me with that.
Yeah, that's great. Amy, jumping back over to you, from your own experiences working with students, would you add anything to what Ashlyn and Andrea have just said in terms of how students can learn and grow from participating in community services?
And so there's always a part of a student's experience that they are taking away, and then a part of the experience of the community partner. And the best types of experiences are when both sides leave the table and say, wow, I was really able to come away with something important. And I think sometimes we see a lot of servant leaders who forget that they also contributed a lot to experiences, and that what their leadership skills that they were able to hone during that time. Service has been my life. And so I did AmeriCorps year of service. I sit on the state commission for service. I run service programs at the University of Rhode Island. I run a service program in Massachusetts. And so looking at things like resiliency, communication, teamwork, cultural competence, those are all things that students get opportunities to have some hands-on, really meaningful experiences through service and civic engagement.
Right. And, those things all track with the competencies for entering medical students and the kinds of things that I certainly have heard over 20 years of advising that admission committees are looking for sure. Great. Well, so I was just going to ask Ashlyn and Andrea if they had anything they wanted to add from their perspectives based on what they just heard Amy say.
I just have one quick thing is that if anyone wants to join any of the things we just said, our emails, Instagram, social media is like just Google it, reach out. We'd be more than happy to connect you with what we're a part of or help you connect with something that you want to be part of.
Yes, of course. I think, right, that's great. And Amy, how can students connect with you? Just send an email, look you up on Starfish. What's the best way?
Yeah, so I'm in Roosevelt 140, so students will stop by. I also send an email, aealbert@uri.edu, and I can be reached via phone, email, stop on by. I love students that come and say, I have a great idea. How can I help make this happen? And I think that's my biggest thing is advocating for yourself and saying and looking at your own skills and experiences, because many times nonprofit organizations and community organizations, people might be wearing a lot of different hats. And so if you come to the table and say, I'd like to help. They might not know kind of where to start, but if you say, I have this skill, how can I be able to help build your capacity with this skill and experience, whether that's dual language, whether that's writing skills, communication skills, social media skills, literacy skills, they can jump in and help and support that along the way.
It sounds like being proactive is key, which kind of, actually, I'll out the last question to Andrea. What was it like looking for some of these experiences? How did you even find these things?
Good question, because I am a commuter. I don't really live on campus because I was doing another internship, and that internship basically said community service is required. So I just said, okay, well, let's find some organizations in Rhode Island that I can, extend like a helping hand to. And I went on United Way, the website, and I looked for openings, and then I saw that Progreso Latino was looking for census promoters, and I contacted her, the liaison, and then we set that up, and then later she really liked my work, so I was able to be more involved in the process later and have more of a leadership role. And that was also kind of my experience with Planned Parenthood. I connected to like the youth organizing liaison. And so I would say, like, even if you don't use the university resources, like if you see an organization that you like, more often than not, they're going to need help. So contact whoever their youth organizing person is, and they're gonna be super happy to have you help out.
Great. Actually, you know what? I lied. I'll give Ashlyn the last word, because I'm just curious about your advice to students in terms of finding opportunities.
I think with anything on campus, Google's your best friend, Instagram, Facebook, just type in whatever you're interested in, URI, and search it up. You can ask your RA. I'm an RA. I always stress to my residents to do community work. I'm sure your RA has some sort of resources for you if you do live on campus, and there's a website, URI, with like all of the organizations. So you check that out too, and they have all the service organizations as well. Also, Amy is a really great resource. Everyone I tell to go talk to Amy about community service. Sorry, Amy.
No, that she is. I agree, 100%. I want to thank each of you for coming on our video and sharing your thoughts and experiences.